Did you know that Africa has more pyramids than Egypt? Get ready to have your mind blown because we're diving into some seriously cool and surprising facts about African history. Forget what you think you know, because we're about to explore the amazing story of the continent that gave birth to humanity and so much more. Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Seriously, Africa is where it all began. When we talk about the origin of modern humans, we are talking about Africa. Fossils found at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco date back about 315,000 years. Fossils from Homo Kaibish in Ethiopia are at least 233,000 years old, and those found at Hato, also in Ethiopia, are around 160,000 years old. These discoveries prove that modern humans originated in Africa before spreading across the globe. Now, let's hop over to ancient Egypt. You might already know about the pyramids and pharaohs, but did you know that ancient Egypt, also known as Kemet, was an African civilization? It developed along the Nile River in northeast Africa. Around 3100 BCE, Egypt was unified under rulers like Nama. And between 2600 and 2500 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza was built during the reign of Khufu. Egypt was deeply connected to other African civilizations like Nubia, as well as regions like the Levant and the Mediterranean. Speaking of Nubia, let's talk about the Kingdom of Kush, a major power in the Nile Valley. Centered in present-day Sudan, Kush rose to prominence around 1070 BC after the decline of the Egyptian New Kingdom. From 747 to 656 BC, the Kushite 25th dynasty ruled Egypt. Kings like Pi, Shabaka, and Tahaka left behind impressive monuments in both Nubia and Egypt. And here's a statistic to drop at parties: Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt. That's right. The sites of Meroe, Nuri, and El Kuru contain over 200 Kushite pyramids, which are generally smaller and steeper than their Egyptian counterparts. Meroe became a major royal and ceremonial center from roughly the 3rd century BC to the 4th century CE. Now, let's travel west to explore some of the major medieval empires of West Africa. The Ghana Empire flourished from about 300 to 1200 CE. Then came the Mali Empire, which rose after 1235 CE, following Sundiata Keita's victory at the Battle of Kyrenia. And finally, there was the Songhai Empire, which was dominant in the 15th and 16th centuries. These empires controlled the trans-Saharan trade in goods like gold, salt, textiles, slaves, horses, and even manuscripts. One of the most famous rulers from this era is Mansa Musa, who ruled the Mali Empire from about 1312 to 1337 CE. His pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324-1325 was legendary. Arabic chroniclers described his lavish spending in Cairo, where he distributed so much gold that it reportedly depressed gold prices for years. While it's hard to measure precisely, many consider him among the wealthiest people in history. Timbuktu, in present-day Mali, became a major center of Islamic scholarship by the 14th to 16th centuries. The Sankor Mosque and its associated learning tradition were famous throughout the region. The city wasn't just about trade, it was also a hub for theology, law, astronomy, mathematics, and poetry. Let's head south now to Great Zimbabwe, which flourished from about 1100 to 1450 CE in present-day Zimbabwe. Built from stone without mortar, Great Zimbabwe was a political and economic center tied to Indian Ocean trade. At its height, it likely supported a population in the thousands, maybe even over 10,000. Now we move east to Ethiopia. The Aksumite Empire emerged around the 1st century CE and was one of the great powers of late antiquity. Izona of Aksum converted to Christianity in the 4th century CE. Ethiopia maintained a long imperial tradition and was never fully colonized like many other African states, although it was briefly occupied by Italy from 1936 to 1941. African kingdoms engaged in long-distance diplomacy. In 1209 CE, the Ethiopian Emperor Lolibela reportedly sent an embassy to Cairo with exotic gifts. And in 1246 CE, Dunima II of Kanem Borno exchanged embassies with Al-Mustanser, ruler in Tunis. These examples show that African states were active players in Afro-Eurasian politics. But the surprises don't stop there. Africa has some of the earliest evidence of advanced tool traditions. Finds of finely made barbed bone harpoons have been discovered in Katanga, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. These harpoons are often dated to about 90,000 years ago, suggesting early fishing-based economies in Central Africa. One of the world's earliest mining sites is in Africa. The Ngwenya mine, near the Bomvu Ridge in Eswatini, dates back about 43,000 years ago. It is often cited as one of the oldest known mining operations, associated with hematite extraction and early industrial-scale use of minerals. The Ishango bone, discovered near Lake Edward in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is another fascinating artifact. Dated to roughly 20,000 BC, it has notches interpreted by some scholars as evidence of number sense or arithmetic. Benin City had a massive defensive system. The Benin earthworks, also known as the Great Wall of Benin, were an enormous system of ditches and banks around the historic Kingdom of Benin in present-day southern Nigeria. It's described as one of the largest human-made earthworks in the world. Total network length has been claimed in the tens of thousands of kilometers when all connected earthworks are included. African urbanism was highly developed well before colonial rule. Cities like Kilwa Kisiwani and other Swahili city-states on the East African coast, Benin City, Timbuktu, Mogadishu, and Hora were centers of specialized labor, long-distance trade, and political institutions. And get this, the Royal Library of Timbuktu manuscripts are still being studied today. Tens of thousands of manuscripts were preserved in private family collections and institutions. These manuscripts cover subjects like law, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, grammar, theology, and poetry. They challenged the false idea that pre-colonial Africa lacked written intellectual traditions. African women held major power early and often. Hatshepsut was a pharaoh of Egypt, reigning from about 1479–1458 BC. Amenarinas was a Kandake of Kush, active around the 1st century BC. Yasantewa led resistance in the War of the Golden Stool in 1900. Nzingamban ruled Nongo and Matamba in the 17th century. And Amina of Zozo is associated with expansion in northern Nigeria, traditionally the 16th century. Finally, Africa was a major center of Christianity very early on. Alexandria in Egypt became one of early Christianity's major intellectual centers. Aksum adopted Christianity in the 4th century CE. And the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church became one of the world's oldest continuous Christian traditions. So, there you have it, a whirlwind tour of some amazing and often overlooked facts about African history. From the origins of humanity to powerful empires and brilliant innovations, Africa's story is one of resilience, ingenuity, and incredible achievement. Next time someone asks you about African history, you'll have some seriously cool facts to share.